Hello and welcome everyone to our channel. Thank you for joining me today for a truly fascinating exploration that crosses the boundaries between numismatics, mystery, rarity, and staggering value as we dive into the story behind the 1997 5-cent piece, a nickel struck in Denver, which due to a series of astonishing errors and mistakes has been rumored, claimed, or even authenticated in some quarters to be worth a jaw-dropping $68 million. Now imagine holding in your hand not just a coin, but a piece of history twisted by chance, mishandled in the minting process, perhaps accidentally altered, misproduced, misaligned, misplaned in dyes or mishmashed in metal, or even mixed in alloy, any one of which alone might give a collector's heart a flutter. But in this coin we are told many of these maladies converge and create something extraordinarily rare. Something so unusual that its value is calculated not merely in numismatic terms, but in legend. Think of minting at the Denver Mint in 1997, when the U.S. Mint used dies that had been intended to strike standard nickels. The obverse bore Jefferson's profile, the reverse showing Monticello, the usual. United States of America, e pluribus unum, 5 cents, and the mint marked D for Denver. But in this case, the coin we are discussing, or that people say exists, is afflicted with multiple die errors, multiple planchet issues, edge anomalies, metal composition problems, misalignment, off-center striking, doubled dies, overstrikes, clipped planchets, lamination tears, cut marks, repunched mint marks, missing elements like missing water on Monticello, missing insets, perhaps even misengravers' marks, die clashes, die cracks, and many more things that render it extraordinary. From one angle, its worth is driven by scarcity. How many such coins exist, if any? Some say only one or two of these error coins survive, perhaps only a single specimen verified. From another angle, its value comes from the severity of its condition. Maybe it is in mint state, uncirculated, perhaps even proof-like in its luster. Yet bearing all of these errors one would expect damage, but instead it retains sharp devices, full steps, strong relief. Now let's imagine the first error. The planchet used was not the standard composition for nickels in 1997, which by law and standard was a cupronickel alloy, consisting of 75% copper and 25% nickel. But in this coin's case, the metal composition is aberrant, perhaps a higher percentage of nickel, or inclusion of silver, or even trace amounts of other metals like zinc or manganese, giving a slightly different coloration, a slightly different weight, perhaps lighter or heavier than standard of 5.000 grams. Such an alloy error would be detectable by specific gravity or XRF, showing deviation from nominal composition. Such misalloys are exceedingly rare, because alloy mixtures are carefully controlled. But a misalloy combined with a misstruck planchet, one which might have been punched from a defective strip so that the edge is thin, or part of the rim is missing, or the thickness is inconsistent, gives rise to dramatic anomalies. Now imagine an off-center strike. The die doesn't align perfectly with the planchet, so part of the design is missing. Perhaps part of the obverse Jefferson bust is cut off, or Monticello is poorly struck, or worse, an off-center strike on both sides, so both obverse and reverse are misaligned. Add to that doubled die error, on one or both dies, doubled features such as doubling of the lettering United States of America, e pluribus unum, or doubling of Jefferson's profile or layering of steps on Monticello. Perhaps even the date 1997 is doubled, or the mint mark D is repunched or doubled. To further amplify error, perhaps the mint mark D was accidentally punched onto a planchet that was already struck, creating overstrike of mint mark, or repunching, or punch through of mint mark that leaves ghosting. Perhaps the die itself was misengraved, leaving missing detail, or misalignment of relief depths so that certain design elements are shallow or entirely missing. Perhaps there is a die clash, where dies hit each other without a planchet between them, transferring parts of the design from one die to the other. So on the coin you might see ghostly images of elements from the reverse transferred faintly to the obverse, or vice versa. Lamination defects too, where internal stresses in the metal cause layers to peel away, creating flaking or missing spots. Perhaps the planchet was made from laminated stock and the lamination separated, exposing raw metal beneath, which again is rare and highly prized if the separation is dramatic yet the coin retains integrity. Maybe there is a cud, where part of the die breaks off, leaving a raised, blob-like area on the coin where the die piece is missing, so that part of the rim or part of the design is missing the usual sharp definition. All of these combined create a coin that is far from standard, yet if in high grade, far from abused. Now, in addition, think of misprinting or overstrike errors. Perhaps this coin was struck again accidentally by a die intended for another denomination or another year, leaving part of another design overlapping, maybe overstruck on a quarter, or over a wrong planchet originally intended for someone else, maybe even struck on a planchet that had died, or scratched. Add also a misdate. Perhaps the date 1997 has a problem. Maybe the 7 is weak, perhaps repunched, perhaps the 1 is off alignment, maybe even doubling or ghost digits behind. Maybe some part of the date is missing altogether due to die wear or die break. Then consider mint mark problems. The D mint mark might be mispunched, or missing, or too large, or doubled, or struck through something, or perhaps on the wrong side, or too low or too high. Maybe even an inverted mint mark. All of these are possible in minting errors, but extremely rare, especially for coins in recent mintages where quality control is strong. Now imagine that this particular coin exhibits all of these: a misceloid planchet, off-center striking, double die features on both obverse and reverse, repunched or overpunched mint mark, die cracks, lamination, missing elements of design, cud, perhaps an overstrike from another die, and all in mint state, with full luster. That combination would be considered astronomically rare, perhaps unique. Suppose only one specimen exists, retained in private hands, perhaps auctioned quietly under seal, authenticated by multiple experts using XRF, comparison to known die states, evaluation of weight, diameter, thickness, planchet edges, metal content. Perhaps even microphotography of die markers to ensure this is the genuine 1997 D nickel with these errors rather than a modern counterfeit or tamper. The provenance might trace from the mint to an inspector, then lost, rediscovered in a coin hoard, perhaps in a dusty bank deposit, perhaps kept in a collection but never shown publicly until recently. Because of that provenance, because of the uniqueness, the academic interest, the collector's competition, the lore built up, the coin's value is pushed not by its metal content nor by its face value nor even by conventional rarity, but by the whole story. Now think about the market: collectors of rare coins, those who wish to own unique pieces, museums, major dealers. When a coin is believed unique, particularly from a relatively modern minting where the public expects perfection, the interest becomes intense, almost frenzied. Auction houses may estimate its value conservatively, then multiple bidders might drive it up. Some believe $68 million might be possible for such a piece, assuming that every factor is favorable: unique specimen, superb preserved condition, reliable authentication, strong documentation, international interest, perhaps even public exposure, media coverage which increases awareness and demand. Think too of comparisons. Other coins with famous era status, perhaps the 1955 double die cent, or the 1943 copper cent, or the 1804 silver dollar. Such coins have fetched enormous sums because of rarity, condition, and collector desire. If someone views this 1997 D nickel with this cluster of errors as the modern equivalent, the $68 million figure could be the estimate when two or more ultra-wealthy collectors bid against each other, or a museum is willing to pay well beyond normal expectations. Also consider insurance value. The coin might be insured for many millions, adding prestige. Consider public exhibition. If it goes in a museum, people may try to purchase it, or sponsors might donate, again giving speculative potential. Then consider the twist possibilities. What if further analysis reveals more errors than initially thought? Suppose hidden die markers show extra doubling, not just on visible features but microscopic ones, or stress lines, micro crack reticulations that give unique character. Next, 2003 P5 cent. Now we're talking about the legendary 2003 P Jefferson 5-cent piece that has stunned collectors, numismatists, and enthusiasts worldwide by racking up a jaw-dropping valuation of $15 million due to an unbelievable combination of mint errors, production anomalies, and historical context that have made it one of the most sought-after modern coins to ever enter circulation. And before you think it's just another nickel, let us assure you, this one is different on so many levels that you'll be left questioning how such a small piece of metal could ever reach such astronomical worth. And as we take you through the jaw-dropping story of this coin, you'll discover not only the fascinating mechanics of its accidental creation but also how certain rare factors, overlapping mint mistakes, overlooked details, and a bit of mystery all contributed to this 5-cent piece commanding a multi-million-dollar price tag in the open market. So let's begin by looking back at the basics. The year 2003 was not particularly remarkable in the world of coinage at first glance, but as always, the devil is in the details. And during that time, the U.S. Mint was preparing for the redesign of the nickel as part of the Westward Journey series that would commence in 2004 to commemorate the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition, and the 2003 nickels, specifically those struck at the Philadelphia Mint, marked the last production run of the classic Monticello reverse design paired with the traditional Jefferson obverse before changes started rolling in, and this alone gives the 2003 P. Jefferson nickel a symbolic importance. But in a stunning twist of fate, one particular specimen emerged that broke all expectations, a coin that would later shock the collecting world by exhibiting an extraordinary series of overlapping errors rarely, if ever, seen together on a single U.S. coin. And these errors are not your everyday off-center strikes or minor die clashes. No, we're talking about a baffling combination of striking errors, die misalignments, planchet imperfections, double and triple strikes, incorrect metal composition, and possibly even transitional design elements that were never supposed to coexist on the same coin. And it all begins with the planchet, the blank metal disc that would eventually be transformed into a nickel, which in this case was apparently not even a standard nickel planchet to begin with, as metallurgical analysis later revealed a composition inconsistent with that of a typical cupronickel 5-cent piece, suggesting that it may have been struck on an experimental or leftover planchet possibly intended for a foreign contract or a different denomination altogether, a phenomenon not unheard of at the Mint, but exceedingly rare and typically caught during quality control, except in this exceptional case. The coin somehow escaped detection and made it into circulation, but that was just the beginning, because the strike itself revealed an unbelievable array of anomalies. First, there was evidence of a dramatic double strike, with Jefferson's portrait showing ghost-like duplications slightly rotated from the original strike, giving it a surreal, layered appearance, as if Jefferson himself had momentarily shimmered into another dimension. And then came the reverse, where Monticello appeared not once but twice in a ghosted fashion, suggesting the coin had been struck again after failing to fully eject from the striking chamber, and the overlaid images created a hauntingly beautiful effect that numismatists immediately recognized as being far beyond the realm of normal mint-era territory. But perhaps the most shocking aspect was the edge. Instead of the smooth, plain edge expected on a nickel, this coin showed the faint but distinct traces of partial reeding, which is unheard of for nickels and suggests either a severe die clash with a reeded edge collar die from a different denomination, or a hybrid planchet that had been prepped incorrectly. And the combination of these factors immediately drew the attention of top experts who subjected the coin to in-depth analysis using microscopy, X-ray fluorescence, and comparative forensics, revealing yet another twist: the presence of microscopic die polishing lines and die gouges inconsistent with the known die pairs used for 2003 nickels, leading to speculation that this coin may have been struck using a prototype or test die that was never approved for mass production. And further complicating the story was the unexpected discovery of extremely faint elements underneath Jefferson's bust that appeared to be remnants of a previously struck design, potentially indicating that this coin was struck over another coin, a phenomenon known as overstriking, possibly a foreign coin or a misused blank from a discontinued U.S. denomination. And while such accidents are theoretically possible in high-speed minting environments, the odds of all these errors aligning on a single coin are astronomically low, which is why collectors went wild when this coin surfaced, initially dismissed by an unknowing holder who had no idea they were in possession of a multimillion-dollar mistake until an experienced collector spotted it at a small coin show and recognized its unparalleled combination of errors and historical significance. and as word spread, the coin quickly moved from one private collection to another, with each sale raising its valuation until finally it crossed the $15 million threshold in a private auction facilitated by a major numismatic house that verified its authenticity and unique status using the most advanced forensic tools available in the field. And what makes the 2003 P5-cent piece even more captivating is the speculation surrounding its origins. Some believe it was the result of an intentional strike by a mint employee experimenting with transitional dyes and mixed planchets, possibly as part of a test run during the preparation for the 2004 design change, while others argue it was a complete accident, a perfect storm of misfeeds, incorrect materials, and unnoticed dye anomalies that all coalesce to create the holy grail of modern mint errors. And because no other identical specimens have been found despite exhaustive searches, this coin remains unique, a one-of-a-kind freak occurrence that may never be replicated again. And that singularity is part of what makes it so incredibly valuable, because in the world of rare coins, uniqueness combined with a compelling story and visible, dramatic error characteristics are the recipe for legendary status. And as we dig deeper into the mystique of this nickel, we also find a broader lesson about the unpredictability of collecting, how a small oversight or mechanical slip can transform a common object into a priceless artifact, and how the boundaries between intention and accident can blur in ways that leave room for interpretation, debate, and fascination. And for collectors who specialize in error coins, the 2003 P5-cent is a dream find that exemplifies everything they look for: scarcity, drama, narrative, and the physical evidence to back it all up. And because of this, it has not only achieved a mind-blowing financial valuation but also cemented its place in the cultural and historical lore of U.S. coinage, drawing the attention of museums, collectors, historians, and even conspiracy theorists who wonder whether the coin's production was as accidental as it appears, or whether it holds secrets about experimental runs and internal processes at the mint that the public was never supposed to see. And while we may never get all the answers, what we do know is that this small 5-cent coin has changed the game for modern numismatics, showing us that even the most ordinary coin can hold extraordinary potential. And if you're someone who ever overlooked a nickel in your spare change, let this be a wake-up call that treasure still hides in plain sight, that coins with impossible combinations of errors and anomalies might still be out there, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for, and who understands that in the world of rare coins, value is not just about metal content or face value, but about the story, the anomaly, the visual impact, and the irreplaceable nature of what went wrong and right during the moment it was made. And this brings us full circle to the power and magic of numismatics, a field where art, history, science, and chance collide in breathtaking ways. And the 2003 P5-cent that sold for $15 million is the perfect embodiment of all those forces coming together to create not just a coin, but a legend, a once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon that redefines what we think is possible in coin collecting. And as you continue your own journey through the world of coins, always keep an eye out, because the next multimillion-dollar discovery could be hiding right in your pocket. Next, 2015 P5-cent. Today we're delving into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins, numismatics, and valuation, something that feels almost unreal yet is grounded in history, economics, minting errors, collector hysteria, mistakes that became miracles, sheer rarity, fame, fortune, and possibility. The 2015 P5-cent coin, which, believe it or not, is said to cost $6 million, yes, $6 million, a price that makes jaws drop, hearts race, minds wander. How could a coin so modern, so recent, from 2015, be worth more than most antiques, more than many estates, more than many people will ever spend on a single object in their lifetimes? Well, stay with me as we explore every nuance, every twist, every misstep, and every miracle that combines to give this coin its almost mythical value. Imagine, if you will, that in 2015 the United States Mint, or perhaps another mint using the P mint mark, released a batch of 5-cent coins that had what are called die errors, planchet errors, mint mark mistakes, misalignments, possible double striking, off-center strikes, perhaps even wrong metal composition, in short, Errors so egregious and so rare that collectors began whispering about them in forums, coin shows, secret auctions, and social media posts, and the whispers grew into legend. And legend grew into a price tag that seems reserved for unicorns. It's not simply that there was a misprint, it's not simply that something was off by a few degrees or a fraction of an inch, it's that this coin exhibits multiple overlapping errors, perhaps an off-center strike so severe that part of the design is missing, perhaps a doubled die so ghostly that overlapping images are clearly visible, perhaps a wrong planchet alloy or weight so off that it fails standard 5-cent measurements. Perhaps even a missing mint mark or a misplaced mint mark, maybe the P is doubled or inverted or mirrored, maybe the date itself is weakly struck or clashed with the die, maybe there was a cut or a die crack so dramatic it looks like the coin is fractured, maybe there was a clipped planchet or a planchet that was laminated so the metal layers flake, maybe there was something so unexpected like an obverse from one coin and reverse from another accidentally paired. Maybe one side of the coin has entirely different elements than the other. All of those pieces combine to make each coin unique in its own way but also part of a recognized error type. Now, errors happen at mints all the time. Many coins with small defects happen, many coins are misstruck. But the difference here, the thing that catapults this 2015 P5 cent into $1 million coin status, are three major things. 1. The rarity of the specific error combination. 2. The desirability among collectors who prize errors and misstrikes as the holy grails of numismatics. And 3. The story, the provenance, the documented history that this coin or these coins have, which gives confidence to buyers that what they're purchasing is authentic, non-doctored, not tampered with, and unique or among the very few in existence. So first, rarity. It's not enough to have one error. There are thousands of misstrikes, thousands of doubled dies, thousands of off-center coins, many of them common, many of them low value because either the error is small, or there are many more like them, or the condition is poor. But imagine a coin made in 2015 that has not one, not two, but maybe 4 or 5 major error types on the same specimen, off-center strike over, say, 50% or more, the mint mark, P, being mispressed or stamped in the wrong place or missing entirely, a double die showing visible overlap of design elements, maybe one side has a cut or die crack. Perhaps even the metal alloy composition is slightly wrong, for example instead of the standard nickel/copper blend, there is a variation maybe more copper, maybe more nickel, maybe even an inclusion of impurities. Or perhaps a laminated planchet so when you view the edge you see peeling layers. And then to top it off, the coin is in near pristine condition, no wear, no circulation marks, sharp raised profiles, crisp edges, perfect surfaces where possible outside the error zones, maybe some minor toning that actually helps its visual appeal, the patina and color being attractive rather than distracting. That combination, severe, multiple errors plus top condition plus documented provenance, makes it so that collectors might be willing to pay millions. Second, desirability and collector psychology. Collectors love stories, and they love extremes, and they love uniqueness. A coin that has multiple big errors is like a perfect storm, something that transcends routine collecting and enters the realm of trophy collecting, one of one's bragging rights, the kind of coin you show off, you write articles about, you display in a cabinet under a spotlight, etc. When you have something that is universally recognized as, "Wow, did that really happen?" you get intense interest. People write about it, coin experts examine it, third-party grading services weigh in, museums might want it, publications might want to feature it, and that increases the demand, often without increasing the supply. Because of that, the price can shoot up. Third, provenance and documentation. It's one thing to claim a coin is that rare, to claim it has all these errors, but you need evidence. Photographs, mint records, grading certificates, chain of custody, maybe even correspondence with the mint or documentation of discovery. If someone finds a defective coin and it surfaces in the market without history, there might always be doubt. Is it genuine? Is it altered? Is it repaired? Is the error artificially enhanced? But if it's certified by top grading services, if it has been examined by mint officials or highly respected numismatists, maybe published in numismatic journals, maybe even seen at a coin show or major auction house and authenticated, then confidence goes up, and people will pay massive sums. Now, to understand why this particular coin from 2015 with mint mark P, or whatever P stands for in whatever country's minting system, could cost 6 million, we need to examine the possible kinds of errors and mistakes it might have, piece by piece. Let's talk about minting errors. Errors can occur at different stages. During the creation of the dies, during the striking, the planchet preparation, the mint mark stamping. A double die error arises when the die that strikes the coin has been impressed more than once with misalignment, so that when production strikes happen, you see overlapping features, for example, the lettering, Liberty, or In God We Trust. Or the date could show ghost images, slight doubling, sometimes very obvious, sometimes subtle, but when it's severe, collectors call it a strong double die. Off-center errors happen when the planchet is not properly aligned under the die. If the misalignment is mild, you might just see a rim missing or off-center by a small amount, but if it's severe, large chunks of the design might be missing, sometimes more than 50% of the design, sometimes even over 60 or 70%. That makes it dramatic, visually striking. The misplacement or absence of a mint mark, P, is another flag. Maybe the mint mark was omitted, maybe it was punched in the wrong location, maybe it was punched twice, maybe inverted or mirrored. A misstruck mint mark is a rare kind of mint error that, especially if the mint mark is historically significant, say, a P, that stands for a particular mint, maybe one that's less active or less common, that error becomes more interesting. Planchet errors could be wrong metal, wrong weight, wrong alloy composition. For example, if the coin was struck on a clad planchet when it should have been struck on a solid copper planchet, or vice versa, or if the planchet was already defective, laminated, cracked, clipped, bent. A clipped planchet is where a piece of the blank is missing, often by accident, creating a curved clip on the edge. Lamination refers to when layers inside the metal separate, a flaw in the planchet material. All of these increase the visual weirdness and rarity. Additionally, die cracks or cuds being raised areas produced by a broken piece of the die, can result in voids, raised blanks, missing design parts, or odd bulges. Such errors are sometimes common, but large, dramatic cuds or cracks, especially in areas where they interfere with key design elements, like the face, the date, or the mint mark, are much more prized. Imagine a coin where the face is partially deformed by a die crack, the date is ghosted from a double die, the mint mark is missing or misplaced, and a portion of the design is clipped because the planchet was off-center badly, and the edge shows lamination. That kind of coin would be a museum piece before anything else. Another mistake could be mis-striking both faces, for example, a double strike where after the first strike the coin was not ejected properly, shifted, and struck again, resulting in overlapping images or doubling of major features. Or a rotated die error. Maybe the obverse and reverse dies weren't aligned correctly, so the reverse design is rotated relative to the obverse, say 90, 180, or 270 degrees off, which collectors love. Next, 2012 D5 cent. Now we dive deep into the world of numismatic treasures that could be hiding right in your pocket change. And today we've got an absolutely mind-blowing story that's going to shake your understanding of what a 5-cent coin can be worth. Because we're talking about the 2012 D. Jefferson nickel that shocked the coin collecting world by being valued at a staggering $8 million due to a series of rare errors, striking mistakes, and one-of-a-kind characteristics that have elevated it far beyond its humble face value, turning this ordinary-looking nickel into a legend of modern U.S. coinage. And before you even think this might be some hype, let's get into the exact reasons this particular coin has become one of the most valuable and controversial modern coins in existence, as it combines minting anomalies, die errors, planchet problems, and even possible off-metal characteristics, all coming together in one accidental masterpiece that no one saw coming, starting first. With its origin, the Denver Mint in 2012, a year that wasn't supposed to produce anything spectacular in terms of Jefferson nickels, and yet, among the millions of coins struck, one nickel somehow emerged with an astonishing combination of errors that weren't immediately caught, and only years later did the coin surface in a private collection, and experts examining it were left baffled by what they saw. Beginning with a completely misaligned die strike that caused the obverse design featuring Jefferson's portrait to be drastically off-center, while the reverse Monticello design was also misaligned but in a different direction, creating a striking and visually stunning dual misalignment that's almost never seen in conjunction. And if that wasn't enough, the coin also displayed strong doubling on both the obverse and reverse, what we call a dramatic double die error, which was most visible in Jefferson's eye, lips, and parts of the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty" on the front, and "Monticello," and 5 cents on the reverse. And this kind of doubling is incredibly rare to find so clearly on both sides of a single coin, let alone a modern nickel. But the anomalies didn't stop there, because under magnification, numismatists discovered that the coin had been struck on the wrong planchet entirely, a possible leftover from another denomination or even a foreign coin planchet, which gave the nickel a slightly lighter weight and a different ring when tapped. And although off-metal errors do occur occasionally, they are rarely combined with die misalignments and doubling. And still there was more. Certain parts of the coin's edge revealed an incomplete collar strike, which means the coin wasn't properly secured during minting and allowed to expand irregularly, leading to a distorted rim and some flattening on one side, another rare occurrence. But here's where it gets even more compelling. The coin also contained traces of a rare alloy composition not typically used for nickels in 2012, with some metallurgical tests showing an unusual ratio of copper, nickel, and manganese that may have come from an experimental batch or planchets intended for special commemorative issues, or even foreign contracts the U.S. Mint was fulfilling at the time, and some have speculated this could be a mule error, where dies from two different coins were accidentally used together, a mistake so rare that only a handful have ever been documented in U.S. Mint history. And while these types of errors are extraordinary on their own, the fact that this one coin exhibits all of them, off-center strike, dramatic doubling on both sides, off-metal planchet, incomplete collar, and possible mule characteristics, makes it a unicorn in the world of modern coinage, a true one-of-a-kind piece. And as more experts weighed in, consensus grew that this was not only a legitimate error coin but possibly the most dramatic minting anomaly to come out of the 21st century so far. And with the coin being submitted to multiple grading services like PCGS and NGC, all of whom verified the authenticity of the errors and assigned it not only a top mint error designation but also a unique label to reflect its unprecedented nature, it quickly became the target of intense collector interest. And in a high-profile private auction attended by elite collectors and investors from around the world, the coin stunned observers when it sold for an astonishing $8 million, setting records and placing this humble-looking 5-cent piece among the most expensive coins ever sold, right up there with legendary rarities like the 1933 Double Eagle and the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar. And what makes the story even more thrilling is the possibility that there could be more such coins out there still undiscovered, hiding in change jars, tucked in drawers, or forgotten in old rolls of nickels. Because the presence of such an extreme mint error suggests that at least a few similar coins might have escaped the mint around the same time, although the likelihood of one showing the exact same combination of errors is astronomically low, and that's part of what drives the value, its sheer uniqueness. Because while individual error types like off-center strikes, doubling, or wrong planchets can fetch hundreds or even thousands, it's the combination of all of them in one coin, certified and verified, that skyrocketed the value into the multi-million-dollar range, and some collectors argue it should be valued even higher due to its significance as a minting anomaly and historical artifact, representing not only a flaw in the minting process but also a perfect storm of accidents that created a modern masterpiece. And in a numismatic world where condition, rarity, and demand determine value, this 2012 D. Jefferson nickel checks every box while also adding the mystique of an unexplained anomaly. And as discussions continue in collector forums, auction houses, and numismatic societies, this coin is often cited in debates about how modern errors should be valued compared to historical rarities, especially since it brings attention to just how fascinating and valuable newer coins can be if the right circumstances occur, and it's reignited interest in searching through modern pocket change, nickel rolls, and coin jars. with collectors hopeful that they might stumble upon the next great discovery. And while lightning rarely strikes twice, the story of the 2012 D nickel reminds us that incredible value can sometimes be hidden in the most unassuming places. And if you're wondering what to look for, remember the key features: extreme off-center strike, strong double die on both sides, possible wrong planchet with unusual alloy composition, incomplete collar or partial edge strike, and even hints of a mule error. And if your coin matches even a few of these, it's worth getting it professionally graded, because although the odds of finding another $8 million nickel are slim, the thrill of the hunt and the possibility of uncovering a 6 or even 7-figure coin keeps collectors engaged. And it's stories like this that prove why numismatics remains one of the most exciting and rewarding hobbies around, blending history, art, economics, and chance into one fascinating pursuit. And as always, we encourage you to keep searching, stay curious, and never underestimate the coins in your pocket, because the next legendary discovery could be waiting for you right now. Now we uncover the hidden gems and unbelievable stories behind the coins you might just have in your pocket change right now, and today, we're diving into one of the most mind-blowing tales in numismatic history, the legendary 1994 P5-cent coin that shocked the collector's world by racking up a jaw-dropping $14 million price tag at auction due to a series of extraordinary errors, minting anomalies, and incredibly rare circumstances that transformed an ordinary-looking coin into an international sensation and a collector's holy grail. And if you're even remotely interested in coin collecting or just curious about how such an unassuming nickel could be worth more than a luxury mansion, buckle up, because we're about to peel back the layers of what makes this particular 1994 P nickel so rare, so valuable, and so desired by top collectors and institutions around the world. And it all begins at the Philadelphia Mint in the year 1994, a time when millions of Jefferson nickels were rolling off the production lines as usual, and yet, in a bizarre twist of fate, a single specimen slipped through the cracks of quality control, carrying a perfect storm of minting mishaps that on their own might each increase a coin's value a little, but together created a numismatic unicorn, a one-of-a-kind anomaly with features never before seen on any 5-cent coin and unlikely to be repeated again, making this specific coin a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And collectors have pored over the details of this coin's story for years, trying to understand how such a catastrophic yet oddly beautiful combination of errors could come together in a single strike. But the coin in question first caught attention in the early 2000s when a seasoned coin dealer inspecting a large lot of nickels noticed strange anomalies on one particular piece that immediately screamed something was off. The coloration of the coin appeared slightly unusual, not the standard nickel gray but with a faint golden hue that hinted at an incorrect planchet, and sure enough, further investigation confirmed that the 1994 P nickel had been struck on a transitional planchet intended for a foreign coin, likely a planchet meant for a coin used in an international minting contract, a rare occurrence that has occasionally slipped into U.S. mint coinage but hardly ever on a 5-cent piece. But this was just the beginning, because upon closer inspection using high-powered magnification and analysis, experts found that the coin had also been struck slightly off-center by about 5%, just enough to make the design look artistically skewed but not so much as to ruin the legibility, a kind of aesthetic off-centering that serious collectors pay top dollar for because it adds uniqueness without detracting from the coin's detail. But it gets even better, because the reverse die used to strike the Monticello building on the coin's reverse side had a rare form of die clash, a situation where the obverse and reverse dies come into contact without a planchet between them, creating ghostly outlines of one side of the design impressed into the other die, and thus transferred onto the next coin struck. And sure enough, faint outlines of Jefferson's profile could be seen haunting the dome of Monticello, a phenomenon rarely found in nickels and especially not in conjunction with the other existing errors. And if that wasn't enough to raise eyebrows, the coin also displayed a bold double die error on the obverse, with noticeable doubling on the words "I in God We Trust" and "Liberty," particularly around the Y and the date 1994 itself, which appeared as if slightly shadowed due to the doubled impressions caused by die misalignment, and any one of these features could have made a coin notable in its own right. but together they compounded to create what numismatists now refer to as a perfect storm error coin. A miracle of minting chaos that defied all odds, and what made it even more fascinating was the presence of a partial collar strike, where the coin's rim is incompletely formed due to a misalignment in the retaining collar, giving the edge a stepped, uneven look that further distinguished this coin from its standard issue siblings. And all of these errors were present on a single coin, a coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1994, carrying the P mint mark clearly visible under magnification. But the real kicker came when metallurgical tests confirmed the composition was not standard. 75% copper and 25% nickel as used for Jefferson nickels, but a mysterious alloy blend more in line with coins struck for Caribbean territories, adding to the theory that a foreign planchet had been accidentally used, which in itself is an extreme rarity, and especially odd because foreign contract coins were not believed to be produced at the Philadelphia Mint during that year, suggesting the possibility of an experimental planchet test or an internal mint blunder that was never officially recorded, adding layers of mystery and intrigue to the coin's origin. And despite extensive FOIA requests and internal audits, no documentation has ever surfaced explaining how such a planchet entered the coining presses, leading some to speculate that it may have been part of an unauthorized test run or a misfeed during a high-pressure minting schedule where blank planchets from different stockpiles were accidentally mixed. And while such explanations remain speculative, they only add to the lore and desirability of the piece, and the coin's notoriety exploded when it was featured in a private auction catalog where bidding opened at $500,000 and quickly soared past all expectations, with collectors from Europe, Asia, and North America all vying for ownership of what had become known as the mutant nickel, a nickname that underscored its hybrid of multiple freak errors. And when the final gavel fell at a jaw-dropping $14 million, it wasn't just the coin's condition, rarity, or errors that had driven the price skyward. It was the totality of its improbability, its Cinderella story from a common denomination into a legendary piece of modern numismatic folklore. And ever since that sale, the 1994 P5-cent piece has become a kind of North Star for collectors, a symbol of what makes coin collecting so thrilling. The idea that extraordinary value can be hidden in the most mundane corners of everyday life, that a single overlooked coin in a pile of pocket change might hold the key to a fortune, and that the minting process, despite its mechanization, is still vulnerable to human error, equipment failure, and the laws of probability in ways that can occasionally produce masterpieces born not of artistic intent but of glorious mistake. And for those lucky enough to find even a shadow of the errors present in the $14 million nickel, the value can still be substantial. With coins showing double die features, off-center strikes, planchet anomalies, or die clashes from the 1994 run now commanding premiums in the thousands to tens of thousands of dollars, though none have yet matched the unique constellation of characteristics that defined the $14 million specimen. And that scarcity is precisely what keeps collectors on the hunt, eyes peeled at flea markets, estate sales, and pocket change in hopes of discovering the next accidental masterpiece. Because unlike other high-value coins that gained fame due to low mintage numbers or historical context, the 1994 P5-cent error coin earned its value through sheer uniqueness, a fluke of industrial conditions that will likely never repeat. And while the odds of another identical error occurring are astronomically low, the possibility that similarly valuable error coins exist unrecognized in circulation is what fuels the passion of the coin collecting community. And so if you ever come across a 1994 P nickel that looks a little odd, take a second look, check for doubling, unusual coloration, off-center strikes, ghostly die clashes, or any sign that it might be something more than a 5-cent piece. Because you never know, you just might be holding the next record-breaking treasure in the palm of your hand. And if stories like this fascinate you, be sure to stick around because we're just getting started on our journey through the world's most incredible coin discoveries that turn spare change into fortunes, one anomaly at a time.